So you know what I was thinking about yesterday is that it's that time of year where kids are going back to school, and some schools are asking for your child's updated medication list and emergency contact information and those sorts of things. And I was not too surprised to see that I still had my dad listed as the emergency contact if me or my husband cannot be reached for an emergency for our boys. But since we lost my dad in January, my husband and I have had this realization that my dad, who's been listed as my kids' emergency contact for years, ever since they went to school, it's kind of been a wake-up call to go, wow, we really need to address this, who's going to be contacted, who's going to be that person that the school can count on if they can't reach me and they can't reach my husband if there's an emergency with my boys. Well, since the older one graduated, there's just the one younger son in school right now. And so my husband and I were faced with this question in the last couple of days since school has gotten back in session. And we were kind of like dumbfounded at how difficult this question was. And it's not just the question itself, who would you put as your children's emergency contact, but it's a real legitimate concern. Who are you going to want to be contacted that's going to have your child or your best interest as a parent? Who can stand in your place, and who do you have faith and trust in? And it is absolutely heartbreaking to realize that you don't trust, and nor do you feel comfortable or confident in listing your parent and or your sibling or in-law as a emergency contact, the family members that should ideally be closest to you, and of sound mind and judgment, and aware of what your wishes would be, enough so that you know that and physically within a distance that's reasonable, that they could be reached, because a lot of the times you have to consider distance. If you have a very close relative that just simply might not live in the area, that's a whole nother story. But in my case, most of my close family members live within a couple hours of where I live. And most of my husband's family is within a couple hours of where we live. And we looked at each other last night and we said, you know what? We don't feel comfortable. We would feel 100% comfortable with his parents being the emergency contacts, but they're seasonal residents of the area, and 6 to 8 months of the year, they're nowhere near where we live. So if they were to be contacted, besides they're older, and that's the sort of dependency that I wouldn't want to place on their shoulders. The reason we had my dad down is because he's literally 1 mile from the school. And so we felt comfortable and confident. And as I've mentioned in prior videos talking about grieving for my dad this winter, he was a very sound mind and judgment when he passed. His physical body was very unwell, and that's what led to his death. It was not his mind. So when it comes to my in-laws, it's like, not only are they older, but they're also not even anywhere nearby where they could get to the school if there was an emergency with my son. So we were kind of going through the list of people that are closest physically in relation, bloodlines to us. And there's my mom, and there's my sister and her husband. There's another brother and his wife, and another brother and his lover, the one that cheated on his wife and recently divorced. And other than that, my husband has a brother who lives several hours away, but is out of the country at this time for work. And he has a sister who's another member of the family who left her husband, and she's been through several boyfriends since she left the husband, and she's got a lot going on in her personal life, a lot of struggles. And not judging, I'm just saying that we don't really feel like there's a stable, level-headed, rational person who's close to us that we feel confident leaving the care of our boys. If there was an emergency and they couldn't reach us, leave this person's name with the school. And we went through everybody that's closest to us. And then we got to the point where we're like, okay, who's closest in the area that would honor our wishes or be able to step into that role as a parent that we trust and have faith in. And outside of my immediate family was my ex-sister-in-law, who is in the same town as me and near the school and works about 1.5 miles from the school. So I asked her and she said yes. And then my brother, who is out of the area, but the one that I trust the most as far as blood relatives, but he's an hour away. So we thought at least between the two of those, we should have our bases covered as far as an emergency contact goes. But how sad is that? And I'm sure I'm not alone here. How sad is it that you can't rely on your other living parent to be an emergency contact for your children? And how loudly does that speak that your other living parent or the majority of your siblings are people that you do not trust to be an emergency contact for your child? What does that say about the state of the relationships, the state of how you were raised, the state of your level of trust and faith in these people? As I mentioned before, my family is on speaking terms with each other, but they're not healthy people. As a general rule, my family is not healthy. I would venture to say that I am hopefully the healthiest, because when I got into counseling and became aware, I started working on myself greatly and started to realize, after learning from my counselor what is healthy and what healthy relationships look like, and how to be a kind, loving, respectful, mature, level-headed, logical, compassionate, graceful, responsible and accountable person in this world, and have good, healthy, positive, impactful, intimate relationships, not just with loved ones, with other people in general in your full circle. Once I learned that, and I'm still learning it, and this was one of those things when my husband and I were thinking about the emergency contacts in our family and the level of trust and faith that we do or do not have with our family members, it made me realize, when I have those moments of weakness, when I start to think maybe I'm the crazy one, because they, of course, have spent the majority of my life training me to believe that there was something inherently wrong with me, and that I was a big fat loser because of the opinions that I had, or the way I lived my life, or my decisions or choices, because of the shame and the guilt and the unhealthy manner and the abusive manner and the toxic dynamic that I was raised in with my family. It's continually still a struggle for me. I have speed bumps, as I call them, where I have my moments and I question myself and my faith in myself and my strength. And I have a lot of self-doubt, and I still struggle with self-doubt. And so it's good for me to have these moments where, as hurtful as it is to realize that I don't have that 1 or 2 or even 3 people, and I was raised in a family of 8, that I don't have several siblings that I can trust and have faith in, or their husbands or wives that I trust and have faith in, to step in as an emergency contact for my child is sad at first glance, but it's a good reminder to me that I'm not imagining things, that there is a problem in our family, even if no one else recognizes it. As always, take care of you guys. Thanks for tuning into Whole Wellness with Ann. Till next time.